You are listening to Esoteric Discussions with Valentine St. Aubin on Peterborough FM, www.peterborough.fm.
Hello and welcome to Esoteric Discussions with me, your host, Valentine St. Aubin, a show where we go deep down into the rabbit hole. You can catch me every other Wednesday evening from 9 here on Peterborough FM and online. If you want to learn more about me, please visit my website at valentinesaintaubin.co.uk. So it's the 18th of April 2012 and, well, we're almost through the month of April, coming into May, and it's been a very quick-moving year. I think if you do your research, you'll find a lot of the experts are talking about the acceleration of time, and I think for many of us, we are definitely feeling it. I personally can't believe that it's already almost May, but it definitely is. And we are coming into the more important months now of 2012. I'm not going to go into the astrology tonight regarding all of that. I have in the past, so if you want to check out the archives, you can. I certainly have spoken a lot about the astrology of 2012, the window of time that we're actually in, and it's starting now, but we're looking at a window of several years. It's not just 1 year. It's a cycle kicking off. It actually officially kicked off around 2008, and it's building a momentum, and with it comes all sorts of things. So if you're interested to learn more about the movements of the planets, what's coming on, we've got a lot of squares coming, which, you know, this helps us to understand why we are seeing so much distress around the globe. We've had big moving planets like Pluto going into Capricorn. Capricorn is an earth sign and also rules our structures. You know, so all these things are going on. So if you're interested and you'd like to learn more, you can check out some of the intros in my archives and from last year, and there's more information on that. Just to let you know as well, I'm going to be guest presenting the show On the Edge, which airs on Sky Channel 200. That's Controversial TV. If you have Sky, not everybody does, that's on Channel 200. You do not need to actually have a subscription for Sky to get this channel, but you do need to have either access to a Sky box or to a satellite dish. And I'm going to be having my guest, who is going to be Helen Sewell, who has been a previous guest on this show. She is an astrologer, and we're going to be talking about the times that we're in right now. We're going to be talking about the astrology of 2012. So as I say, it's very, very interesting, and she's going to be on with me. And so look out for me, 3rd of May. And the show goes out live. It starts at 8 o'clock, and I will be on the television between 8 to 9, and then I will be... then what happens to the feed is that it goes out live via the internet. So then if you have questions or any other issues, you can explore it further. And that's between 9 to 10. So I'll be working with Edge for about a good 2 hours. So it's going to be lengthy with lots of information. So if you like all of this, then please do check it out. So tonight, I am having part 2 of an interview with an Indigo. I have Thengo back with me tonight, and we were just talking briefly before we were on air, and he's saying that he's experienced a few things since our last conversation. So I'm eager to get him on the mic, and so we can continue our discussion. But if you... the last show I had Master Wizard with me. I had a Master Wizard on the show, so it wasn't the last show, but it was the show before that I had Thengo on. And we were talking about what an Indigo is. There's been a lot of hype, a lot of disinfo brought out about what Indigos are. Not all Indigos see dead people. They don't all see angels sitting on their shoulders. They don't all have big blue eyes or blonde hair. They're not all, geniuses in terms of being, superb artists or superb musicians, superhuman people, but they are extraordinary in their own way. And not everybody who is of a certain age group is an Indigo. This is my belief system. This is what I believe is true. It doesn't mean that I'm right, but I am not buying that everybody now being born between 1987 to about 2002, 2003 is an Indigo. I think some are. I think overall the vibration of the human race is changing, but I wouldn't say we're completely there yet where we're having 100% Indigo or crystal children on this planet yet. But there are definitely some very tuned in younger generations of people now coming into their own. And Thengo is part of this group. He was born in 1992. He has an extraordinary astrological chart, which I discussed with him last time he was on the show. He has something like 5 planets, all in Capricorn, which is absolutely astounding, because when we look at astrology, having a conjunction like that in one particular house always signifies that someone is quite special, because all of their energy is being focused into a certain particular area. So that means that they're here to do quite a bit of work in that area. They're going to be very focused in that area from a young age. Whereas most of us who have planets dotted here and dotted there throughout our astrological chart, we might take a bit longer to learn about ourselves and to develop ourselves further. But that's what's so extraordinary about many of these Indigos, is that they do seem to have these kinds of patterns in their charts. Not all of the Indigos do, and we have to be careful about stereotyping people and saying, well, they must have A, B, or C to be like this or to be like that. We can come in different packages. Thengo has an extraordinary chart showing me that he's definitely ticking all the right boxes to be an Indigo, but yet I don't see necessarily the starseed numbers, but that doesn't mean that he's not a starseed either. So we have to be careful about how we stereotype people. But we're going to be talking with him very shortly, and we're going to talk about his own I don't want to put words into his mouth, but his own experience of what he's going through right now, because I think he is definitely going through some kind of big transformation, some kind of an awakening, and there's no coincidence that he's happened to cross paths with myself and my husband, and that's how life works. Whenever I meet these individuals who are here at this time of this age group who are on this planet, I'm just always very impressed, because they're very, very bright people, true Indigo adults now, because they've now become adults. They're no longer children. The Indigos that were children are now adults, young adults. They are very, very intelligent and very clued in, and years ahead of their time. So he's going to be very interesting to listen to. And I just want to make one further point on all of this. When we talk about what an indigo is and what they're here to do. You know, we're seeing lots of movements picking up now across the globe. These are going to continue. These are going to intensify. I would say in the beginning, some of that was controlled opposition, but not everybody is going to be on the wrong side of that. But there are definitely groups forming, movements forming, and they are genuine. And that's what these youngsters are here for. They're here to change things up quite dramatically because the status quo has had its way for quite some time. And there is big change coming, and we can see that astrologically. If you can hear voices behind me, I do apologize. There's some kind of meeting going on outside of the studio, and they're very loud, so you might be picking up a bit of noise in the background. We're going to take a break. And when I come back, I'm going to have Thengo on the air with me, and we're going to continue our conversation, which is part 2 to an interview with an indigo. So stay with me, and I'll be back shortly. Hello, and you're back with me, Valentine St. Aubin, and that was Sheila E., who used to be the, well, I think she still performs with Prince, but she was Prince's drummer for a few years, and they also had a relationship. She's probably one of the best female drummers that we have, and she comes from a musical family. She's also the aunt of Nicole Richie. Nicole Richie is Sheila E.'s niece. So that was Sheila E. And you're back with me tonight. I have with me in the studio Thengo, and we are going to be doing an interview, as I was saying earlier in the show. This is an interview with an indigo part 2, and as someone wanted me to stress, this is an exploration into Thengo's mind, into an indigo's mind, because you see, people like to give all these labels as to what an indigo is, how they should be feeling. So I've got someone in the studio today who's going to tell me what he thinks indigo is, because he didn't actually know. So I'm just going to open up his mic, make sure that he's there. Can you say hello?
Hello.
Hello, yes, you are there. Let me just turn you down slightly. That's better. Welcome back, Thengo.
Well, it's good to be back.
Good. We had a very interesting chat last time that you were here. We started off talking about your astrology, your astrological chart, which is quite fascinating. As I had said to you previously, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets in Capricorn, all next to each other. And you're part of these. You're part of a group of people that were born in the early 90s who have Uranus and Neptune sitting right next to each other in the natal chart, which is extraordinary because Uranus is the planet of revolution, and Neptune is a very deep spiritual planet. It's the ruler of Pisces, and Neptune is very hard to define because it's an energy that's very far out there. So when you combine these two planets together, you get something quite individual. And, you all have come, there's certain groups of you that have been born with certain alignments, and you're one of them. And you've got a very interesting chart. So we were discussing that in the last interview.
Yeah.
And we only had a little bit of time to get into some of the things that you were interested in. So I decided to have you back because we ran out of time, and you've got so much to share, and I want to make sure that you get to share it tonight. So let's pick up where we left off, because because we had a very interesting conversation just before we went on air, and you were saying you were feeling a bit out of sorts since you've had the interview. So tell me about how you've been feeling, because I know this has been happening to a lot of people, and I'd like to go into this a bit more deeply.
Yeah, of course. I've been feeling out of touch with reality a bit. Like recently, I've discovered that I'm like losing weight. I'm normally waist 30, but now I'm waist 30 with a belt. So that's extremely harsh. And then just been feeling out of place, really, in terms of. For instance, I was having a conversation with you before about sitting on the bus, and then it feels like I'm in a totally different space than everybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody else seems like they're in a place that's a bit more far away from where I am, and I'm kind of like questioning, like thinking in my head, like, what the hell is happening? Do I actually really know what's the deal is here? Or it's really hard to just approach anyone to have that conversation with them, because you might get the feeling they might actually start thinking as if, oh, are you a bit loony or something like that? Yeah. So it's been an experience where, like, I don't know, like in my mind I start thinking people like I was thinking like everyone is just like an entity, just we're all on a path, a straight parallel path. Everybody's just walking comfortable in a nice little zone, but nobody really has a sense of what's actually going on. It feels like I'm on my own. Most of the times it feels like I'm on my own, and because of that, I think it's kind of like affected me mentally, because despite me being not out of place in terms of I'll attach my family or anything like that and friends, I'm still close with everybody there, but it just feels like as if I'm on my own, and that's affecting me in terms of mental strength, and most of the times I just feel like I'm alone.
Well, what you're describing is very common for people who are going through what we call a very big transformation. And sometimes what happens is when you can meet someone and they switch something on inside of you. And I think maybe that has happened to you, because when we had our interview in the first part, you were talking about, I remember you said you were sitting on a bus and you had an extraordinary feeling come over you, and you felt like you had a lot to do, or you're here to do something very important. And since then, which has only been, a couple of months ago, you've gone on this fast track, haven't you, of really discovering who you are. Not that you weren't aware of certain information before, but who you are and how you fit into the scheme of things. That's a rapid transformation. And with that comes a separation of what your reality has been. And you we call it, this is where it gets complicated, because we call it like an ascension type thing. We mean, and it's not meant to be like, the Christian thing of ascending and flying up through the heavens, but with your vibration, it's rising. So that means that you become more detached from the average person. You're on a whole nother level. You're in a different dimension to them, and you can actually feel as if you are in a different dimension. As I was saying to you when we were having a conversation, many of us have had, those of us that are a bit older, we've had different moments where we get awakenings. What has happened to many of us who are clued in and are aware of what's going on right now, we would have gone through different a big transformative step in the last few years, and many of us would have had illness. I experienced illness. Personally speaking, I got very, very ill. So when you talk about losing the weight, maybe not, just feeling out of sorts, I can tell you all about that, because I lost weight. I was dragging myself across the floor in pain, and I'll tell you basically what had happened. And you could go to the doctors. They can try and tell you this, or they can try and tell you that, or they can try and put you on antidepressants. But the bottom line of it is, I like to describe it as a Kundalini release. And Kundalini is an energy that resides in the body. The ancients have always known about Kundalini. When you see the Egyptians, you see the pharaohs, you have the cobra head on the head. That's a symbol of enlightenment, the energy moving up through the chakra points, coming out through the top chakra, showing that they're connected to the source energy. We have not been taught about Kundalini energy, but we go through transitional steps with it in our daily lives as we age. The midlife crises that can kick off Kundalini releases, which can make you have all sorts of different emotions, illness. This is something that's been going on for ages, but it's not discussed properly. And if you look at the medical symbol that they use, the caudicus, it's a spin-off of the Kundalini energy. You have the snakes coming up. They use that symbol. So it's there within society, but it's something not discussed. So many of us have been having what you're saying over the last few years, most definitely over the last few years, in high numbers, experiencing illness, experiencing symptoms that you can't easily explain. Lots of pain in the head, around the top of the head, the crown chakra, pain there, twinges all in different areas, other areas of the chakra points. Visually, sometimes visually you can't see very well. What happened to me was that I guess you could say my third eye kind of closed, and it affected my vision. I couldn't see properly. I was seeing like a narrow slit. It's hard to describe, but I was seeing like I was looking out through the bottom of a bottle. Yeah. That's what it looked like to me.
Like a hole in the wall.
Yeah, I couldn't see, and then that was scary, and I felt completely, like how you described, completely detached from reality. A doctor would say that's psychosis, but I wasn't psychotic in that way. My body was going through something. And so what you described is very normal, and it usually happens, and it's happening more and more now as the frequency is raising on the planet. We've been having a lot of solar flares. The solar flare cycle has started to kick back in again recently, and we're having very strong solar flares, and every time they kick off, it kicks off magnetic energy as well, which affects us on an emotional level, depending on how sensitive you are. So there's a lot going on, but definitely I would say probably a switch turned on inside of you.
A switch.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you feel when I call you an indigo? Have you looked into that for yourself? Do you think that that's a name that suits you? How do you feel about all of the labels in that sense?
In the sense of being an indigo, From what I've been reading out on it, it seems like I'm a bit of a different type of indigo, because I'm mostly a bit of a loner, let's just say.
No, indigos are loners.
Indigos are loners, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I read up on something that we're more really magnetic, as in we attract people around us.
Yeah, but you can still be a loner.
Yeah, because it's like I'm always a sort of individual that is really good at covering up the emotions that I'm having. Yeah. But when it's time to let it out, then I can be quite aggressive with it. But in terms of define myself as an indigo, I'm still having to go through the process where my mind is having to go around it, because for a very long time I never actually had little to zero knowledge of actually of my star signs, because like you read the magazines or you read in the newspapers and you try to get a bit of enlightenment of what your star sign is, but you just generally realize that they're always a package, and they can relate to anyone. They can whatever they do say on the magazine, they can relate to any. You can be Aquarius or anything. It still relates to you, and they're still basically the same. And it's really eye-opening in the fact that there's a lot of individuality. I don't know how to even say it. I feel much more of an individual now in terms of star signs and understanding that concept of being an indigo. But I'm still having to go through it properly so that I can probably have a grasp on it, on what I'm actually all about.
Yeah, I mean, and we have to be careful with labels as well, because that's the problem with the world that we live in. We get too bogged down into what should this be called, what should that be called. And really, the term of indigo is just, I myself and some people like myself use it to just help to differentiate between yourself and a normal person. I mean, that's the best way to sort of use the expression. Because there are people that are switched on in different ways, and people who are like yourself are switched on in a very special way. Like myself, I wouldn't necessarily call myself an indigo. I know there's the argument where, technically speaking, they will label some of people of my age group indigo. I don't think people of my age group actually can fall into that bracket, but we're definitely what we would call way showers, or people that help to open the door to allow now people of your generation to come onto this planet. Because what we're talking about is tied up in the fact that this planet is moving in a new direction. It's going to take a while to get to where it's supposed to go. And there's debate about where it's supposed to go and where we're going, if we are transitioning up to a higher frequency, higher level. That's all debatable. We can see points of it right now, but I can't say with 100% certainty that this planet is going to be full of peace and love in 20 years' time. I don't believe that's going to be the case. But we are moving into a new era. And this is where now the term indigo can be used, and how we can express that and help to put that into the whole context of things. Because those that are like yourself, and you're still finding yourself, you're still relatively young, you're only 22, you're a young adult, but you're on a journey, and where you'll be next year will be accelerated to even where you are now. You're going to make great leaps of consciousness and awareness, and that's what makes yourself and people like yourself so special, because you are going to go miles ahead of the average person, and you need to be, for this planet to move forward in the way that it needs to move forward. So that's the way I like to use the term of indigo. And it doesn't have to mean that you're super psychic, or you see dead people or those types of things, but there is a born intuition of understanding, and that's what's needed right now. It's the understanding of what is going on around us, so that we can bring it up to the surface, expose it, and get rid of it. And there's many, many areas that need that. So like for yourself, as you were saying, you're learning about the astrology. Astrology is one of those things that have been demonized. It's been pushed out of mainstream
conscious. They practice it in the background as well.
As they practice it in the background. As they do with everything.
Everything, yeah.
Anything that can make your awareness open, they demonize and laugh at it. But they're practicing it behind the closed doors. Now, who are we talking about when we say they? Who are we talking about?
The powers at B.
Okay. So I know you've been doing lots of research in this area. So tell me some of the things you've been learning in this respect.
Yeah. In most cases, you look at the let's just say what's happening in the Bilderberg group. And I don't know if you follow Alex Jones when he did.
Yeah, well, I know his work.
Yeah,
talking about Bohemian Grove.
Grove.
Yeah.
So in most cases, they have always been seeing it as a background source to actually enlightenment.
Yeah.
Like what was this? Is it? I forgot his name. Ronald Reagan's wife actually used to be deep into astronomy, because
she used to have an well, many of them have had their own court astrologers. I mean, that's been going on for quite a long time.
Yeah, because she had a fear that he would actually get killed because of the president's curse. So she used to use that as a source of trying to protect him as well. And it's funny enough, there was a program that's coming on, I think it's Natural Geo, that shows, like when we think about medieval England, we think about very Christian, do the wrong thing and your head's getting chopped off or getting hanged up. But then they were doing the other religions and the other secret beliefs that were happening in the background. So there was witchcraft, there was worshipping of the thing. So
many of the great minds, like Newton was a Rosicrucian, and he was heavily into the occult. Many of the great thinkers were Masons, high-level Masons.
And George Washington's as well. Just
all exactly the founding fathers of America. And it's important that this kind of information is understood. It's not for everybody, but those who are here to do a certain job, that's the groundwork first. You have to know the shadow before you can expose the shadow. And that shadow is very, very strong. It's very real. Now, the average person will laugh at you, won't they?
Well,
I'm sure.
Some ignorance is bliss. So
true.
It's a source of escape.
Very true.
It's a source of escape because to some people actually processing the information and actually taking it on board and feeling the way that they see things and the way that they've been brought up, it's actually quite a scary experience to actually go through to that.
It is, yes.
I've had conversations with my mates, my ex-housemate in uni that didn't want to touch the information. He didn't even want to go anywhere near close to the information because quite frankly he was scared of that information having that much of an effect on him, that he just chose the option of ignorance is bliss. And even though his brother was into the information and his brother was always trying to encourage him to actually show him, no, this is actually what the world is, and he was actually telling me that, no, I actually don't want to have a part of it, because to have a part of it is to mean that I'd have to have a separate, different direction in my process, in my thinking, in my way of life, and I'm not ready for that yet.
Well, that's what you've just said again. You're years ahead of your time. That's so true of where the average person is, and that's why the world is where it is right now, because so many people are not ready. They're not ready to take, you've seen the movie The Matrix, they're not ready to take that other pill to really understand what's going on. And that's why for so long we can't move forward. We're coming into a time now where it's getting harder and harder for this information to remain covered. And they themselves are pushing it to the forefront because, they're aware. See, we're talking about they again, but the shadow, those that are in control, they know the time that we're in right now. They know that certain people are getting switched on, and it's going to continue and it's going to grow. But there's still quite a few who aren't going to get switched on, and that's the confusion. We're not all going to get switched on. This is not for everybody. And when the shift kicks in, not everybody's going to know what's going on around them. That's why some people are going to be the leaders to help pull others up and take them forward. Nobody's better than anybody else. It's just some are going to learn ahead of time than others. Some people will have no clue and probably won't stay on the planet for much longer, let's be honest, right? Some will and will have a hard time as more and more of this information comes forward. But even those in power have been manipulating and playing with this information and throwing it into the movies. And, all you have to do is turn on your television and all the different occult shows that are on right now. There's so many.
There's loads. You can even have a look at Nickelodeon, for instance.
House of Anubis. I just saw that. That's for children.
The whole Disney Channel. I'm trying to tell my mother, you shouldn't let my little brother and sister watch the Disney Channel because from sun up to sun down, you can actually blatantly see if you're in tune with the information, if you're in tune with the symbology that is used, if you're in tune with the agenda that's actually behind it, the Harry Potters or the Selena Gomez, and they're not trying to glamorize witchcraft. You can actually definitely see that it's there, but sometimes it's like I don't know. I feel sometimes like whenever I do tell my little brother and sister, like tell them off to like stop watching the certain things. You know, I feel like maybe I'm being a bit.
Well, it makes you feel uncomfortable because, you're being a bit old-fashioned, or you're not being cool, because they're trying to market these things to a very young... They know what they're doing. Yeah. They're marketing this information to the younger generations, because these younger generations, some of them are very tapped in. And if they can push them to that side, then it allows them to get away with certain things. It's like if I show you something... you become desensitized, don't you? And it's okay, you know. It's okay. Like the movie Sucker Punch. Now, that's on at the moment. I have Sky at home. Sky. The movie Sucker Punch is on at the moment. I haven't actually sat and watched it, but I've watched little bits of it here and there, and I can tell you exactly what's going on in that movie without even fully watching it. It's about mind control and disassociation. The stuff that's in that movie is not appropriate for a child, and it's being pushed onto children. A young girl who's been sexually abused by her father, who goes into a dissociative state. This is what they're pushing onto the children. You know, I think it's, you know, people have to wake up to this.
Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty horrific. Like I'm not against anything to do with let's just say homosexuality or anything of that sort. But you can see it like in books now, for young kids in primary school books, they're promoting that agenda as well. So they're pushing the sex from a very young age.
Yes, sexualizing the children.
Yeah, from a very, very, very young age. And then you're getting kids whereby, I think it was in America, where a kid would get paid, I think, $100 if they find some dirt on their parents that can get them a restaurant. And then you had some kid that was actually reporting to their principals about what their parents are getting up to, and then the kids will get given $100 per report. So if the information ends up in the police station, then they'll get $100. That's really crazy. Like teaching your kids to spy on you.
But you see, by introducing all of these things at a young age, they then say, you know, that what they're trying to do, what they're trying to play with people's minds, to say all of this is okay.
Yeah,
because this is the world that they want to create.
Yeah, it is. It's a mental conditioning. It's a mental conditioning.
Yeah,
like they using that. It's kind of, it's not nice to really say this, but it's the same animalistic instinct of reward. They always love the fact, like let's just say, like to use as like a bit of a pet, whereby usually if you get given, let's say, an award for telling on your neighbor for doing something, or for reporting someone for a traffic offence, and then you get a certain certificate, you get a certain recognition from the council, you get I don't know, a citizenship award. It's that sort of thing. It's like feeding, you know, like each and every single time the dog does a trick, you gave him a bit of food or whatever it is as an award. It's that same principle that they were using, that they actually initially found in Russia. That was the sense when they were doing researches back in the early 1900s
with Pavlov.
Yeah, with Pavlov. Yeah. Like putting the pet into the human.
Well, that's very much a part of mind control, isn't it? The whole experiments as well. They've done all sorts of horrific things under the name of experiments for mind control, and they definitely are playing with our heads. I want us to take a little break, and I like how we're, because you know this is fantastic. 5 years ago, having a conversation like this on community radio, just a normal community radio station, would have been very difficult to find. And this is how we know there is change here. There is change coming. And, you know, just the average person down the road can now learn this stuff without having to read through all the books. And, you know, it's presented right in the palm of their hand. So we have the ability to wake people up. And I do believe, step by step, it will happen. I don't believe it's just going to happen by the end of 2012.
What, December 21st, is it?
Yeah, you know. But there is movement afoot. So we'll continue along that line in just a minute. And we're going to take a quick break. This is... I really liked the movie Tron. I liked it when it came out the first time when I was a kid. And I liked this one as well. I liked the second one. And the movie Tron, a lot of people didn't like Tron because it's got that Neptunian energy. It's hard to define. It's very much ahead of its time. And I really like the music from Tron. And if you haven't figured out by now, I really like soundtrack music. So this is one of the main theme songs from the movie Tron. And we'll be back after this break. Right, so we're back with me. I'm your host, Valentine St. Aubin, and this is Esoteric Discussions. I'm here every other Wednesday evening from 9, and that was music from Tron. Very dramatic, very atmospheric, and I really did enjoy that movie. I liked the visuals of it, and overcoming the darkness as well, and that was one of the themes of Tron. And with me tonight, as if you haven't been listening, or if you've just tuned in at the very last minute, I have with me Thengo, who's now going to become very famous from being on radio with me, who has been just giving us a... I'm just fascinated with Thengo because he's very young. Well, he's a young man, but he's just so tuned in. He's wise beyond his years, and he may not see that right now because he's right in the middle of it. But as he gets older, he's going to realize, just how ahead of time he is. And there's people out there like him. And if you're listening, because I know a lot of my people who subscribe to my YouTube channel, I know you must be around the same age as Thengo, so I'm sure you can relate to what he's been sharing tonight and what he's been researching. I'm sure you've been researching it yourself. There's many of you out there learning, and it's very, very, very important. I can't stress to you how important it is that you guys keep pushing the boundaries forward and learn about Freemasonry, learn about the occult, learn about all these things that that they're playing with. Know your politics. Know the background to things. Because the thing with truth is truth can then move you forward to heights unknown. When you know, they can't put the wool over your eyes. When you don't know, they can keep you in the darkness. It's as simple as that, you know. And so I take it back to you, Thengo. We were just talking about some of the things, you know, that you were researching, like Alex Jones, Bohemian Grove, and Freemasonry. I won't go into specifics, but I know that you're working in a building here in the Peterborough area that has some interesting symbology going on there.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Did you want to just speak very briefly? Don't have to give any names or anything, but just briefly about what do you think about all of that? Because I mean, this again is just a very random example of how it's around you. You don't even realise. You know?
Very. I just remember the first time I actually entered the building, heading to work, and then I noticed this Egyptian symbology like on top of the main reception, and I was like, that's really odd, because they had like symbols like from the Book of Death, but I was not really in that familiar sense of about the Book of Death, but in a sense, but the symbology was there. Like you could actually have a sense of that. Well, a person that's in tune, you could actually tell that, hold on, this is representing something. And then I remember like when I was the second day when I was waiting for my mum to come pick me up from work, and I was just sitting down on the sofas in the main reception. I was just staring at these pictures. I was like, what is this about? What does this represent? What does it represent? And then it's funny enough, because like when I was with your husband, gave me a tour for the place, you know.
Yeah, his compass out.
Yeah, took his compass out, and then we done the alignment, and then we got all. It was actually really mind-boggling to actually find that information, and it was the weird thing about it is just like, yeah, we're just out there just to work, you know. We're just out there just to work, and then you don't really think about this sort of thing. Like if I wasn't a person that was in tune, I would never actually have realized what the main source, like what the company actually really is. But then, and
that's how it used to be in the old days. It was supposed to be above our heads.
Yeah.
But many of us have been figuring it out.
I saw us. I mean, like just in the name as well. I realized the symbology in the logo. I noticed the symbology, the colors. It was always there, but I never thought that it would be this much in front of my face. You know, like this much in front of my face, and then you get the statue with the Crusades on it. So I was just like, wow, like they're actually really dishing it out this much. Like they're not even shy about it. Yeah, they're not even. You know, I know they use it as a communication skill for themselves and stuff like that, but. It's just there. It's just out in the open. And do you find that now that you've really tapped in and you've clicked into awareness with that, do you find that you're seeing it everywhere? I see it everywhere. Yeah, I see it everywhere. From TV, from even whenever I go shopping as well. Yeah, I go shopping like you look at some sort of designs. I was in H&M the other day, and I'm trying to buy a T-shirt, and I'm looking at this T-shirt, and it's got a skull. It's supposed to be like a skull sign on it. But then, like what I was taught is that don't look at the image, look into the image, and then you can see all sorts of sexual acts, like drawings out of the skull. You can actually see that the skull, there's actually something else, another hidden image in there. And then just the whole promotion of sex sells just in the skull. And I was wondering, like, first and foremost, like, why was I attracted to this picture, the skull image so instantly, just and then I looked into it, and then you could see the other pictures were hidden into it, and I was just like, wow, this is actually crazy. And then with all the major brands and all the major tags that are out there, they're all related. They're all really
well. They're kind of many of them are owned by the same companies at the high level. Yeah, they have their own individual names, but they're conglomeration owned by then
same parent companies.
That's right, and with the same purpose and agenda. Yeah, and it is very important what you've just shared with us is so, and I just can't stress how important. If we want to get people to wake up, or if we're going to approach this type, if we're going to fight back, it's so important that people educate themselves to the symbols. And let's be clear. I mean, my grandfather was a Freemason. He was a high-level Mason. He was a black Mason, and there's a whole history here with Freemasonry in the colonial world, and they shipped it out worldwide. All the clubs and everything like that, and it's still there. But there's levels to the levels. Okay, and we're not saying that all people who are Freemasons are into the very dark side of things. We're not saying that all Freemasons are bad people, but we're saying at the very high levels of the way that Freemasonry is organized, it has a motive and an agenda.
A very, very, very negative, evil, dark agenda.
And you cannot escape the dark evilness of it. At the very, very top levels, where the power is held. And there's no way getting around that. And once people can accept that, which is very difficult, because we're all good, most people are good-natured people. They don't want to think that people are bad.
But it's all about it's the interbreeding as well that is marketed at the high end of the table. So you're getting persons that are pretty much the same. Like, people have to realize that you get generations upon generations of people that are bankers, let's just say. Why is it that after 6 generations, the whole catalogue is full of bankers? Why are people like, for 7 generations no one else has ever thought of being anything but a banker? Like, it's to do with the interbreeding, plus it's also to do with the main focus on what they actually want out of it. Like, you can see, let's just say, when you talk about the Charles Dickens, everybody seems to have a big praise of, oh my God, Charles Dickens. But when you actually do the research on Charles Dickens, you can actually tell that his family interbreed with, I forgot what the other family is called, but they only interbreed with that family as well. And what people have to remember, when Charles Dickens' wife died, he had to marry his niece. They're all trying to put out the same.
It's about the bloodline.
The same person, the same thing. It's like with the royal family, there's like a lot of them that have actually not made it out because as you know, recessive genes can have quite a big negative impact on that. So you've got the Queen has cousins. It came out on Channel 4.
Her husband is a cousin. Philip is her cousin.
It came
first
out
cousin.
First cousins. It even came out on Channel 4 that I think it was a program on the Queen's lost cousins, where you've got the Queen's cousins living in disability halls. Like,
oh yes. Definitely. There's a lot of that in the royal family.
A lot of that, you know, and most of the people like actually praising. Let's just say, the royal family this, royal family that, and it just came out in it.
So I want to thank all of you for